Good afternoon. Welcome to our March 19th, 2024 regular council meeting. At this time, I'd entertain a motion from the council to vote for, what is it, Chair?
Chairman Pro Tem.
Chairman Pro Tem.
Did a motion to appoint a Chairman Pro Tem.
I make a motion to, for Chairman Pro Tem.
I'll second that.
The person is, who are you?
Pete Loftus.
Okay, thank you.
We're both in agreement with that.
And I think the council is aware the mayor had a medical
Yeah.
scheduling issue with
Yes.
with her husband that she was going to try to be here but was unable to do that. So
Okay. So it's on me, this. Okay. All right. We'd like to welcome everyone here for the 1:30 meeting of the Borger City Council. If you stand at this time, we will have our pledge of allegiance and then the invocation.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's bow, please. Our gracious Father in heaven, we thank you again for this day which you have granted us. And dear Father, we continue to pray for the families that have lost personal items, but we pray, dear Father, that you will be with them as they get their feet back on them and help them to grow stronger. And also we want to send out a special prayer at this time for our fellow council member, Milton Hooley. We pray, dear Father, that you will also be with his family as they go through this process of grieving, that you will uplift their spirit and keep them ever safe. And also we want to continue to thank you for every city employee that has been working the past few weeks here. We want to thank you for the hard work that they put in, and also for everything that everyone that donated to the fire victims. We want to thank you for all their help also. And we continue to ask you to be our guiding light as we go down life journey. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, do we have any comments from our citizens? I see none. Item 5, we have the city manager's report. Mr. Garrett.
So I'll start with just a little kind of update on the fire. As you might have seen earlier this week, they have finally officially declared them 100% contained. Which, you know, we've answered a lot of questions about containment and what containment means versus what out means. But so most of the resources are moving into the recovery stage. You'll notice at the Dome, this is going to be the last week for the Dome to be operated as a donation center. We've been actually at this point, you know, the donations were so generous and overwhelming. Most of our needs have been met, so we have not been taking new donations this week, but we're still handing out the few that we have. We've been giving most of the excess to our local nonprofits who can support the long-term need. So Living Waters has come and gotten a lot of food, and CareNet's gotten a lot of the baby things, and so we've been supporting a lot of those going forward, so that if you need help after this, you can get with the existing nonprofits that deal with that, or the centers in both Stinnett or Fritch are still going to be having some stuff. I think that's Connect Community Services in Fritch, and they're doing some more of that out of the Stinnett Community Center. The SBA is at the Dome and will be there for a 30-day period at least. So they are offering disaster assistance loans. Do get a lot of questions about that because it is the Small Business Administration, but they do have personal loans for individuals to replace their primary residence or their contents. So if you have income and decent credit, they are giving the loan terms are pretty good. It's under 3% interest for a residence loan for a 30-year term. They defer payment and interest for the first 12 months. While you're getting back on your feet. So if someone thinks they might be eligible for that, it's definitely worth a talk with the SBA. So we do continue to encourage anybody that really wants to help. We're mainly encouraging monetary donations, continuing either to the Hutchinson County United Way if you want to help Hutchinson County, or if you're interested in other counties or the Panhandle wide, the Emerald Area Foundation has the Panhandle Disaster Relief Fund. So working with other nonprofits, we expect that's going to be the money that's going to assist people in building or obtaining another residence. in Spiritus, which is our volunteer, one of our volunteer groups. They are looking at their goals to build 25 homes at least. As they work through this, they've got some things working there, so I think we'll start seeing some of that. But again, I said it 2 weeks ago, and I'll continue to say it, we do want to thank all the staff and everything that put in a whole lot of hours and doing a whole lot of unusual things, but it's definitely been a benefit and reflected well on the city of Borger. So you will notice as you start going through the finances, our first payroll with all those extra hours kind of hit this month. For most of our departments, it wasn't just a big hit, but you'll notice that fire mitigation is now way over what we would expect to see this time of year, but they took the brunt of those expenses. But there will be a significant amount of reimbursement coming back from TIFMAS on a lot of that fire response. So, we talked about that a little bit last week, but we do have some reimbursement coming in. But overall, if you look at the other departments, we're still pretty good. Sales tax is back in the positive trend again. I expect that to continue at least for the short term, because the other benefit, at least to the city of Borger, is all those fire departments buying gas and food and eating at local restaurants. Definitely will support some of that going forward. So financially, we're still doing pretty good with our averages and on our budget overall. So that's looking pretty good. You'll see sales tax, like I said, was up, and hotel occupancy tax is still up, and that will, of course, be helped by a lot of the fire resources and stuff coming forward too. So with our big projects, 10th Street is finally making pretty good progress. So with all the underground utilities out of the way, almost all the curb is now laid on the street side. They're going back through and pouring the concrete into the alleys and the driveways. It's starting to look really good. They've got conduit going in for the street lights. Once the driveways and curb is poured, they'll move to the concrete into the parking lot, and then finally to the sidewalks down the side. So we're still on track for probably pavement going down later this month, or later into April, middle April, with the traffic pattern switching around the 1st of May. So we're going to try to give everybody plenty of notice when that switch happens. I will say that some of that is weather dependent. We are starting to get into what might be the rainy season. If it's rainy like it was last year, that could be a bit of a problem, but I think after the fires, nobody's going to say anything. Of course, a lot of the fires were driven by the extra fuel that was caused by all that rain last year. But we did get some rain, and it held up pretty well, because you got the base compacted. I will say that as we get ready to lay asphalt, one of the first steps is to put the oil primer down, and then that primer has to sit and cure before they put the asphalt on it. So, coming into April, there might be a period for a couple of days where it doesn't look like anything's happening.
Yeah, Garrett, on McGee, when the water sits right there and it can't go over, are we gonna be responsible for making sure that's not a problem for traffic, or is the contractor? I mean, because the little rain we did have, it was sitting there pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be responsible for having to put out any notification or signage if it. Luckily, there, from what I looked, it will definitely accumulate, but at some point it'll start getting high enough. I think there's a maximum amount that it'll stash before it starts finding another way. But I did drive through that. Did y'all notice that?
Okay.
The bigger thing,
Nobody has said anything yet, but I was just curious.
I know the biggest thing we're trying to keep on is the potholes.
Yeah.
On that side of the road.
South side.
We are filling those pretty regularly as they come up, but like I said, if we can get through about another month, we'll be over there and tearing all of that up. I pointed out in one of the council update memos, you'll notice that those driveways into the mega parking lot look like they're pretty high. But if you recall, we're trying to keep all the stormwater into the street now instead of it running through and tearing up the parking lot. Yeah. So it is a little high. The grade is still acceptable. That first entrance is going to be marked for no trucks because it is going to go down, but we also needed to have that grade to get as many parking places as we can get. So if we regraded that out to lower it, we would have lost 4 parking spots. And with all the other feedback we've been getting, we didn't want to lose any parking spots. So it's like a 4% grade, which I think is quite a bit, but it's not, cars will get by it fine. You just won't be able to veer off of 10th Street in a big hurry into the parking lot, which I think is probably a good thing anyway.
Just a speed bump.
Yeah. And don't forget, the new parking lot will have the center turnarounds and the turnarounds within the parking lot, so you're not gonna have to come out onto 10th to go back into the other areas. So it's really just the entrance and the exit. So I think it'll be okay there, but, you know, I'm sure that some people have kind of noticed that. It might say something, but it should be pretty good. And then that way too, the parking lot will be safer with all the storm water in the street instead of
In the stores. I've got a question for you. Once this is all done, does the state take back over, or is it always our street now?
It's gonna be our street. That was the trade-off for, the payment from
I
TxDOT.
was asked, that's why I wanted to
Yeah.
confirm that that's,
Yeah, so that's why they're paying us, and then that's why they approved our angled parking, because remember, angled parking doesn't meet TxDOT standards, so they've given us a temporary exemption, knowing that it's gonna revert to us, because the state standards would have required us to put parallel parking in up and down 10th Street, and
okay.
for as much feedback as we've gotten now, you can imagine how much feedback we would have
yeah.
gotten if it was going to parallel parking.
Oh, yeah.
But you do see the parking areas are defined with the curbs and stuff down 10th Street now, so I mean, it's gonna be really nice. It's gonna be more parking on the street and more defined areas, and you've got the lay-down curb to keep the water there too. So I'm kind of excited now that you kind of see where it's at. And after seeing how low it was, you can see how much base material we've brought in to stabilize the roadway and to absorb as much force as possible, because now you're pretty much at that final grade, and you're still gonna have 6 inches of pavement on top of that. So in some of those areas where we thought we really took it down, the final grade's lower, but not, I think, as much as it looked like when we were down to the subgrade there, so. But it is progressing. AT&T's already been out there making sure that they know exactly where all their lines are on the south side, so that when we get to the south side, we don't have the same problems we had with the utilities on the north side. And so we've been trying to coordinate with some of that. As far as the downtown park, we did sign contracts on that, so that project should start within the next week, down in the 400 block, depending on material and when the contractor can get here, so you're gonna start seeing work on that. The Johnson Park swimming pool project is out for bid right now, so we'll be getting and reviewing those bids here shortly. There again, our goal is to have that awarded so construction can start right at the end of the summer season, so that we try not to interrupt a swim season there. So we're still on the list for the water wells up in the northwest well field, the test drilling, but hopefully that'll be pretty soon. We did have to take some generators up there. We did lose power up in the northwest well field during the wildfires for, a little bit of time, but of course, we do elevate quite a bit, and with our other different sources, we're able to keep ample water supply for both us and the industry. So utilities did a good job making sure we were good there. So that's kind of where we are on projects, going through the departments. HR has been busy getting ready for seasonal hires. You can see all the seasonal postings out there now. So if you know somebody that wants to be a lifeguard, a park rec aide, or a concession worker, those are all out there. We're also hiring seasonal code enforcement workers to work in the right of ways and help keep our community looking as nice as it can. We're also starting our process of a new applicant tracking system. So the system we use to take applicants and onboard people is getting ready to change. Our current system, Civic Plus, it no longer supports it, so we were kind of forced to switch to a new one, but we're working on that. I think overall it's going to be better, and we're going to move in performance evaluations into it, which will be a lot easier for our departments to keep up with our employee evaluations going forward. But the police recruits are getting ready to, when's their?
They started Monday,
They started Monday.
yesterday, so.
So that's going, so we got them processed. We've got a new employee at the water treatment plant, which replaced Susie Pamela Vineyard, who retired. We're just hired a new wastewater treatment plant operator who is replacing Junior, who retired. And then we've got a new animal control officer who just started, who's replacing the other animal control officer that didn't last very long.
Yeah, he moved back home. He had a illness in the family and moved home to help take care of that.
So we've had a little bit of turnover, but most of our turnover has been retirements, which I don't think are necessarily negative. You know, it's one of the benefits and what we try to sell to the city is that you can work a career and then have a nice retirement. So it'd be kind of bad for me to be mad when you know, work long enough to be able to retire. But, and we've had a few turnover, but overall pretty good. We've also got all the benefit cards switched back over from our benefit change, you know, so all the money has been moved and everybody should be good there. So we're, for the most part, now into the new normal of our new benefits. So I think for most part, the feedback's been pretty good on that. So there've been a few people that have had some issues, but they're definitely the minority. And so, you know, the one-time bonus we got to give everybody, sure should have smoothed that over a little bit. In finance, we're still on track with the audit. We should have draft financials this week, so you probably should see the audit in the second meeting of April, which is on time. So I know we've seemed like we've talked a lot about audit, you know, in the last year and a half, but we've done, you know, one that was way, way, way behind, one that was a little bit behind because we had to do that one that was way, way, way behind. But now we are back on track. So once you get it this April, luckily we shouldn't have to talk about it again until next April. But this will be the first audit that has been done within an acceptable time frame, the required time frame in the last 16 years, I think is what I looked it up. So,
Record.
personally, I'm excited about that.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah, but we're starting to get to the point to where we start looking at our budget adjustments for the mid-year too. So probably in the next little bit, we'll start looking at some budget adjustments. There will definitely have to be some with this revenue coming in from the fire, and we'll want to kind of compensate those expenditures so that we don't look, you know, completely. I know that what was said, I think, in our last work session, and I'll just kind of reiterate here, is that most of the council, you know, has brought up that that's what reserves are for the unexpected emergencies, and I think that's definitely an unexpected one, but I think by the end of the year, we're going to look in pretty good shape, so I'm not overly concerned with that. Any emergency management in central dispatch, they took over 500 calls on February 27th, which was the big wildfire day. So their average is about 120. So 500 extra calls, so appreciate all their hard work. The Texas NETA, the National Emergency Telecommunicators Association, and their chairman is coming next week, so they're going to check in and kind of give them a pat on the back for all the work from the fire that they did, so that's pretty good. They've also completed interviews for an opening that they've got, so we're finally narrowing down, or working on narrowing down that as well. IT was busy. We moved our financial software to the cloud the last month. I think we talked a little bit about that coming, you know, but that then long term should give us more stability, you know, from some of these little interruptions that we've had. Still working through a few minor things, but overall, you know, operationally, I'm for the most part, I've been pretty surprised. Once you get it open, it doesn't really work much differently than how it did before. Of course, this is the first step to us actually moving to the updated platform later in the year, which will give us more functionality and kind of bring us into the modern ages. Our current software was written on Cobalt, which was developed before I was even born. So it's done pretty well, and they've kind of stayed up with it, but it will be nice to have a little more modern package. IT, especially Dustin's, also been very helpful during the last month, putting maps together for the fire and all of our fire needs. You've seen some of those on social media that we put out, and they were also helping at the base camp with their technology needs. So pretty much we were the go-to support for just about anything and everything that somebody needed. So we're really proud of that. Of course, emergency management, other than their fire-related stuff, which you can imagine what they've been doing and dealing with that, Jason, and then Jerry on the county side. I was joking because for one day we finally made them all take a day off, and so I was filling in for them, and I was joking that I was the Jays because everybody in emergency management is Jason, and Jerry, so I just said I was the Jays. But outside of that, they're working on getting, and we finally got a new generator maintenance contractor that we're looking at that's actually certified by Generac. They'll take care of all of our generators. We've had a little bit of difficulty kind of keeping those up to date with just electricians working on them. You know, they're electrical, but that can require specialized training other than just electrical and engine needs. So we're hoping that should be pretty good. Do finally have all the radar work done for the weather radar up in Stinnett with our project with Pantech. So we're working on starting that closeout and receiving payment for that. So that is pretty good. Phillips 66 donated $2,000 to our Project Shield this last month, and so that was exciting. And then we also hosted the Alert Integrated Training during the last month. You know, that's kind of the new school shooting training where you incorporate all aspects of emergency response from police, emergency management, EMS, fire. And so we got some people sent through that, which is also the Train the Trainer class, so that we can start teaching more of that and make sure we stay up to date with that. In the fire department, there again, I'm not gonna talk about fire response, but fire response was a big part of that. But in Wildland continues to work on our mitigation behind the service center. And they've been doing a lot of interviews to national news and other news sources on the benefits of a mitigation program. We talked about that before, but I expect that to continue as that mitigation burn pretty much.
Save us.
Yeah. So we will likely be the poster child of mitigation burns and wildfire settings going forward, and I know that we're all proud of that, and makes it a little easier to justify what money we do spend, but compared to what it would have cost us if it hadn't have been there, you know, we're talking pennies on the dollar there, so well spent. EMS has, of course, been busy. Their calls are actually trending over what we anticipated. Our collections are finally starting to catch up after we finally got our account set up with the VA and all the federal agencies, so we're doing pretty well there. A little below on the collection side, but a little over on the call, so it should balance out. And we've also been going through some maintenance issues with those new trucks. I think they might have rushed them through as demo units, but overall they've been okay. The Ambulance 3, the used one we've got, seems to be the most mechanically sound of
Old faithful.
of all of them. But, you know, if you recall, we didn't have much of a choice on what we were buying back when we bought those. And we have, you know, the council's already approved the next ambulance. It's because it had like a 20-month delivery, so there is another one on order, but they've been going pretty well. Well, so the 7 in the fire academy, that's the recruits and the EMS personnel that are in the fire academy, they're about halfway through the academy now. So they're all doing really well, so we should have those out probably by the middle of June, give or take how all that goes. And Mike did want to point out that the fire camp that we had up at the Johnson Park Youth Center was the first time we've ever had a fire camp in the area. So I don't know if that's good or bad. Bad that we had to have it, but nice that we could accommodate it. I hear it's nice, as we all thought that one. Apparently the one in Canadian was even nicer. Instead of group tents with heating and air, it had group individual pods. So you didn't even have to share the room. You had your own little pod.
That does.
Yeah, you know.
You don't get to communicate.
Well, you know, Pete used to sleeping out on the dirt in the sleeping bag, you know, and some of those
I've heard
California
about those
things.
podcasts.
So, of course, Public Works has been busy, you know, supporting the fire as well, manning the donation center and hauling stuff back and forth. But in the place of that, we did get the 7th and Main finally oversealed, top coated. So they're continuing to start working prep work for the seal coat. We'll have the seal coat bid on our next council agenda. That actually came in under what they were anticipating, so I think we might be able to add a little more streets to that, but we'll have that at the next council meeting. Manny and Isaac have got back from TRAPS, the Texas Recreation and Park Society annual conference, so that's always nice. They always come back with, last year it was pickleball and some other weird things that they put on, so I haven't talked to them yet to see what new thing Isaac's gonna wanna try to after that. And believe it or not, we did finally get our 2 new semi-tractors at the transfer station.
Oh, good.
So much like the Chiefs belly-hood unicorn Tahoes, apparently we now have 2 unicorn tractors. And we also got our new trailer that we had ordered as well. So that's now 2 pretty new trailers and 2 new tractors. So we're hoping to get a little more reliability out of that. In the police department, animal control, like we mentioned a little bit earlier, started the new hire. So she's already been pretty active in finding some new training and working on getting there. So we're excited for that. Do want to give did get a lot of compliments and shout out a little bit to animal control over their assistance with the fires. They set up animal shelter at the shelter site so that those that were displaced could bring their animals and be there. And through that, they were able to support and house 21 animals. So lots of good feedback for Daryl and all the animal control team while they were there. So it's kind of nice, you know, and they're kind of like code enforcement. Most people don't normally like to see them, so when they get to do something nicer like that is pretty good. Of course, the police department, like everybody else in the last month, was pretty much occupied with wildfire response. We did have quite a few people working in the Fritch and Stinnett area to oversee security. Lieutenant Guzman also pretty much stayed in Fritch the whole time, running the law enforcement IC command from there. As much as he might want to think that was a lot of work and, you know, that we should probably pat him on the back, he also pretty much got Tyler's barbecue every day. So there's a part of me that doesn't feel all that bad about him as I walk in there and see everything that they had. But I will say that's kind of, my diet was not good for the wild response. So the generosity of the Panhandle as a whole, I can tell you that everybody ate well throughout that whole deal. And of course, Sims and Lieutenant Morris also used the drone quite a bit in our damage assessments and working through all of that. And so that was kept them pretty busy. And we've got some of those pictures out there. Those will definitely come in handy as we go forward and, you know, start educating some of that. They actually had the drone out for the 7 Mile burn. And when you compare some of those pictures, you know, of the burn and then of the fire, I mean, it's funny because it's swapped, you know, from the burn, you get the black right up to the property and then it's swapped. But a lot of the structures on Industrial Boulevard that did burn, when you look at them from the drone, they're overgrown.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we're definitely going to be pushing a little more for that. Also with code enforcement, you know, we're starting to see a big push in code enforcement for that now that we've got our second person fully on and handling all of that. We'll talk about that in a minute. Public engagement, of course, the Mom Prom was a good success for those that attended the Mom Prom.
A lot of positive comments.
Yeah, it's not one of those Nicole and Deidre things that they're going to be stuck with probably on an annual basis now.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all's fault.
Everybody I talked to said they need to have more women night out. So I told Deidre that, and I said, well, I'll pass it on, so it's in your lap.
They had an event the next day, so they had a wedding the next day, so they had a hard shut off, and they definitely weren't going with that. Apparently, you know, they were chanting, "Hell no, we won't go."
But Nicole's a great bouncer. She's like, oh, yeah, we are. So anyway, yeah.
Nicole and I believe
Good
that
girl.
Terry Don was pretty much done by then too.
Yeah,
So
I
you
think he
know.
was too.
So, but that was like I said, pretty easy event for us to put on, and it did earn about $1,500 to support Lemonade Day, which is our kids' entrepreneurial thing coming up. The ice and cleanup kind of happened during that weekend with all the fires, and we might have not pushed it as much as we would have liked it, but the code enforcement did still do it and was still supporting it, and we picked up a little over 4,000 pounds of trash and debris from the ISOM edition, even during all the fires. So we are still getting lots of good feedback from the neighborhood cleanups and setting those trailers around, so we'll continue with that as well. Remember, June 1st during Beach Bash is Lemonade Day. The registration is currently open, so that's lemonadeday.org/Borger if you haven't registered for that. No age limit on the bottom, but, you know, they need to be able to read. You know, really it's probably for most ideal for middle school age, but up to 17. So if you're interested, I think we have about 14 right now signed up for it.
It's free to register, so.
It is free, and we've got the work set, April 16th and 17th are going to be the educational work sessions with the mentors, the people that are helping the kids with the lemonade stands and going through all of that. Of course, public engagement was very busy during the wildfires as well. We kind of mentioned this 2 weeks ago, but for better or worse, you know, the city of Borger actually was not directly impacted, but Deidre became the face of the wildfires, and we've had lots of positive feedback on
You did a great job.
all of that, but, you know, it did really reinforce why we invest in so many different communication avenues, and you know, it's easy to talk about money that we spend on things that we don't think we're going to use very often, but then when you do need them, they're cheap in comparison. So a lot of that. We also do have the reality check event coming up with the high school May 9th. So still got a few booths out there if somebody's interested in helping secure some of those booths. But, you know, if you recall, the kids are going to show up, they're going to randomly get a job and an income assigned, and then they've got to go work through getting a house and cars, and it's a way to, you know, show them that maybe living with mom and dad isn't quite as bad as sometimes they like to bitch about, and maybe give them a little bit of reality check on how the real world's going to be, and work through that. So I know Deidre says the kids are excited about that. I know the school's excited, and I think we're excited about that as we, work to engage a little bit more.
Mom and dads are probably excited about it too.
Maybe.
Flipping that coin the other way. Maybe they'll appreciate me a little bit more.
We've also been making sure that all of our events are out on Facebook, so be checking our social media or visit Borger.com. We've got the app to download if you prefer it that way. And we are still pushing some of those out in the quarterly newsletter, but we got a lot of things coming up. Got a lot of sip-and shops coming up again with the downtown merchants. The feedback from the merchants were very positive about that they actually increase sales and business more during the Christmas sip-and shop than a lot of the other events that they have. So they're definitely wanting to support a lot of those. So that's been some good feedback from there. We've got a Mother's Day event that's going to start at Thomas Greenhouse. Is going to be the Mother's Day kind of sip and shop. So they're going to start at the greenhouse, and the mother can, if the kids and the dad don't know what to get them, they can just go help them put their little flower arrangement together or whatever the Mother's Day event is. And then, of course, we also do have a lot of summer events coming up, so be planning on those. You've seen some of the music on Main that are out, so we're going to do those open mic nights. Trying to do those in conjunction with the cruise nights, the second Saturday cruise nights on Main, so should be having a lot of good time with that. Of course, in the city secretary's office, Stella's, getting ready for election. So she's in the middle of all of her nice paperwork that is associated with that, and getting all the judges and all of that stuff ready. Before long, we'll be programming ballot machines, and our offices are all nice and clean until those ballot machines come up out of the basement. But we do have a lot more space now, since we've kind of taken down some walls and opened up that area. So hopefully that'll be good to go. Evelyn went through a training cycle in the court last month, and then Evelyn and Michelle are going down later this month, next month for their next court certification exam. So they're going to go to the training and work on that. So always excited to prep for that. And then in plan development, so Naomi is taking 3 classes in there to work on her permit technician certification, so that's been pretty good. She's definitely a lot more comfortable than when she first started. It's a big switch from central dispatch to plan development, but they've been good there. Code enforcement, we did the 2 neighborhood cleanups, one in Keeler and Isom, and then we also did demolish 2 structures last month. That's 1301 Jolly and 120A Froma. And so we are working on a website eventually to start putting the pictures of the before and afters. I know that that's a lot of things that we get feedback a lot that we're not doing anything about all that stuff, but we actually are. It's just kind of sometimes hard to see, so we're going to try to make that a little bit easier to see so that people know what's going on. Like I said, code enforcement now with Johnny fully on board in there, we're starting to send out a lot more notices and trying to stay on top of everything. We've also had some pretty good positive feedback from, Johnny got a positive feedback from a citizen. He just saw them working out in their yard and stopped and, made sure they had everything they needed and if we could do anything. And then they talked about their next door neighbor that was so junky, so we got a case started, got that one cleaned up, so they were really excited about that. So we do have positive changes and positive improvement in code enforcement, and we're definitely trying to get caught up a little bit before spring growth. But we also do more than I think what most people think. But that's all I have.
Very good, thank you.
Well, thank you, Garrett. Any questions? If not, we'll move to the consent items. Consent items 6, 7, and 8. If anybody has any comments on those? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve consent items 6, 7, and 8.
Second.
Okay, it's been second. All those in favor? All right, item to be considered. Consider and take appropriate action on the golf course lease agreement for the Borger Municipal Golf Course. Mr. Spradlin.
So this is pretty much an every 4-year deal. They've had 2 lease agreements with Yamaha over the last 8 years. This year they've did some checking and decided that the club car was the best option this year. Their lease with Yamaha is coming up, and this is just a new lease to 30 carts and 1 maintenance cart. Pretty much standard. The way that it works is the city's been leasing them so that we can get the government rate, and then golf association pays us the lease fee. So there's no direct output, financial output from the city. They just reimburse it for us. Pretty straightforward. Like I said, we've been doing this for, even before the Yamaha, we've been doing this for a long, long time, since the city's had the golf course. So,
Okay.
any questions?
Yeah, on the lease agreement, is that per year, per cart, or how does that?
It's so that the $2,800 a month is per month for the,
Per month,
is
okay.
for the 30 golf carts and the 1 utility cart.
And then reimburse monthly, or? at the
Right,
end
we
of the
pay it monthly and they reimburse us
Monthly,
monthly.
okay. Just wanted to know how the reimbursement came.
Any more questions? All right, I will consider a motion on the golf cart leasing, please.
I move to approve the lease agreement from Club Car for 30 golf carts and 1 utility cart as presented, and authorize the city manager to execute the necessary documents.
Second.
Okay, second motion passes. All those in favor? And it passes. Item 10, executive session in compliance with Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, Open Meetings Law, the council will retire into executive session relative to Section 551.074 personal matters. Discuss the employment, evaluation, dismissal, or compensation package for the city manager. Baby,
That'd be good.
who been messing with my baby?
Nobody has fathered your baby.
I'm short.
I didn't organize anymore.
I'm short too.
I just wanted you to know that you
Did you put
actually
more
have
on
a
there?
degree.
Oh, my love.
I didn't
gave him
need
one of
these
mine
because I
back
gotta
there.
go to a softball game today.
That is great.
Okay. We're back from executive session at this time, and I will consider and take a motion on the employment, evaluation, dismissal, or compensation package for the city manager at this time.
I move to extend the term of employment of the city manager and increase the base salary by 4%.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? And motion passed. Next item on the agenda, consider and take appropriate action to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I second.
We are in German. Have a good evening, everybody.
Congratulations.